Shut up. If you can't listen to what I say, get out.
A cup hastily thrown hits the wall, shattering into pieces. Dad has always been like this. He'd yell almost daily, saying he's the head honcho around here and anyone who opposes him should leave. The Johnson family has blue-blooded roots, and I've heard that since my great-grandfather's generation, all the boys were groomed to become bankers. For Dad, that prestigious lineage is a point of pride. As the eldest son of such a family, I was an average Joe in both academics and sports, far from the shining star. Constantly butting heads with Dad's beliefs surely didn't make me his favorite. He'd call me a fool, a disappointment, and the black sheep of the family. But no matter what he said, my beliefs never wavered. Dad's adamant belief was my son will definitely enroll in the prestigious local university and graduate from its affiliate school, starting from kindergarten. No other path is acceptable. I'm sure the university is indeed prestigious, having produced many renowned individuals. However, no matter how good a university is, if it doesn't offer what you want to learn, there's no point. And I'm sure as hell didn't want to be forced by my parents to enroll. I secretly consulted with my mom behind my dad's back and decided to transfer to a public middle school instead of moving on to the next grade at my current school. When Mike had found out, he was furious at first, but after a while, it seemed like he thought it was a waste to even bother, so he stopped saying anything. For a while, I was worried because my mom's cheeks were red and swollen, but when she stroked my head and told me not to worry, I couldn't say anything. My 2-year-old younger brother's name was Mike. Unlike me, he was an honor student who was good at both studying and sports and had many friends. Dad started to show even more interest in Mike, and being pampered and spoiled, Mike began to look down on me alongside Dad. Little by little, I felt like I didn't belong at home, and my return times became increasingly late. The only reason I didn't leave home was for my mom, who was my only ally. Dad was very chauvinistic, and Mom, who had been oppressed for years, was always scared. One day, when I saw my mom crying after being hit by my dad, I told her, "Let's run away from here." But Mom just shook her head and said we have to endure until you guys become adults. Mom, who got married young, had never worked before, and with her parents passed away, she had no place to return to.
If it's just living on my own, I could live by myself, but I can't raise kids on my own. I'd rather get hit than be separated from my beloved children.
I still remember her trembling shoulders as she hugged me and said that, although I resented my dad, I had no dreams or goals and started to spend time in secluded places to escape reality. Reading books in the corner of a churchyard or casually climbing a nearby hill. One day, after a chance encounter, I found a purpose. I started working without going to college, and in the blink of an eye, 8 years passed. While I don't earn a high salary and the job is tough, I'm truly happy working alongside a fantastic mentor and doing what I love. I often had to be away from home because of work, but at Mom's request, I've always made it a point to spend New Year's at home. As midnight approached on New Year's Eve, when I got home from work, my dad and Mike were having a drinking party, their faces flushed with alcohol.
Hey William, working this late. Dummies sure have a hard time with work. That suits you.
My tirelessly caring mom goes unnoticed, while my damn father, who disdains me, bursts into crude laughter. I really want to get out of this place right away, but right now, I can't afford to support my mother. Frustrated, grinding my teeth, Mike, who'd been laughing alongside my father, finally spoke up.
Hey, I got a job offer from Dad's bank. Unlike you, I'm competent. Fitting for a Johnson, don't you think?
Drunk on liquor he's not used to, he's slurring, and yet he manages to be so snide. Same bank as Dad, huh? I feel sorry for the people working there with these jerks. As I expected, there wasn't even a glass set for me. I ate my special meal alone in my room. Throughout the first few days of the year, Mike kept boasting about his job offer. Dad would compare Mike and me, hurling verbal abuses and throwing random things at me.
I'm ashamed to have a son like you. Bring shame to the Johnsons and you better leave.
Television remotes, empty liquor bottles, and ashtrays have become all too familiar projectiles aimed at me. I've gotten pretty good at dodging these thrown objects, but that only seemed to anger my old man even more. After New Year's was over, Mom saw me off to work, but she was quickly summoned by my dad. Just when I thought things were getting back to normal after a tumultuous holiday season, something else happened. On my way back to the workshop, with a load of wood in the back of my pickup, I accidentally made eye contact with Mike. I don't know why he was walking down that deserted country road, but he burst into laughter upon seeing me.
It's so funny. Look at you doing some dirty manual labor. Guess that's all dimwits like you are good for.
Looking at the wood in my truck, he probably thought I was a logger or carpenter and kept making condescending remarks about manual labor. I considered ignoring him and moving on, but my mentor in the passenger seat spoke up.
Hey now, don't mock this young man, and don't belittle someone's profession.
Mike, clearly irritated by my mentor's calm demeanor, shot back.
Shut up. At your age, you're still working just to make ends meet. Who are you to act all high and mighty?
This guy, mocking me is one thing, but to disrespect my mentor too. As anger welled up inside me, I impulsively tried to get out of the car and confront him, but my mentor held me back.
William, stop it. Your hands aren't meant for this.
Those words snapped me back to reality, and I regained my composure. He is right. If I lashed out now, I'd never be better than him. Still huffing, Mike glared at us. I simply told him, "You're gonna regret this," and pressed the gas pedal. "What's the big idea, leaving like that?" he shouted, and then I heard a loud thud. Wondering what he had thrown this time, I saw a dented empty plastic bottle rolling in the back of the truck. Well, no use getting upset over it now. Time to move on. It did irk me when he insulted my mentor, but punching him would only soil my hands and wouldn't make him reflect on his actions. He might only regret it when his self-worth as a successful son is challenged. I had no idea then that such a moment would indeed come. A bit later, my mentor and I went to deliver some goods to a luxury hotel. The hotel owner asked to carry the boxes to a particular room. I walked down the hallway holding one. Just as I thought I'd turn the corner and reach the room where my mentor was waiting, I heard a familiar, demeaning laughter. I turned around, frowning heavily at the bad feeling, and sure enough, there was my father and Mike, pointing and laughing at me. I figured they were probably there for some sort of celebration for Mike, but my mother was nowhere in sight.
What are you doing here, carrying boxes? This isn't a shelter for the homeless. Did you know that?
Homeless? How could he say that, even to his own son? Sure, I'm in my work clothes, but still. It's work. Just delivering these as requested. Getting all worked up for nothing is something I've learned from experience. I wanted to get out of this situation as quickly as possible, so I decided to get by with minimal conversation.
It sounds so funny. You're not a laborer, but a delivery guy. If it wasn't for your job, I bet you couldn't even step foot in a place like this. That's so lucky, aren't you?
Behind the two doubled over with laughter, a hotel staff member wears a worried expression. As I was wondering what to do, the sliding door opened and mentor peeked out. Looking different from when he's at work, wearing suits and his hair well combed, Mike burst into laughter.
Sounds terrible. Even when he tries to look good, he still seems like a poor old man.
Mike pinches his nose and waves his hand in front of his face, laughing and indicating something stinks. On the other hand, my dad, realizing who Mentor was, turned pale. No wonder, my master's name is John Fitzgerald. He's a world-renowned PATA, a national treasure, and also the major shareholder of the bank where my dad works. My dad, holding an executive position, obviously knows the consequences of upsetting such an influential person. I didn't intend to involve my master in my family issues, but it's their own doing since they went this far.
Mike, you must apologize to the professor right now.
Being forced to kneel by my dad, Mike, looking bewildered, muttered, "Huh, why?"
I let your recent mischief slide because you're his student, but I won't stay silent anymore.
Hearing Mentor's words, my dad started shaking in fear. Back when I was in middle school, I aimlessly walked a trail in the nearby Colorado mountains and somehow found myself in his studio. Captivated by the unfinished ceramics, Mentor showed me many of his works. I only learned he was the famous John Fitzgerald, known for not taking in students. When I asked to be his apprentice in high school, I could feel the magnificence of the artwork, but I was dumbfounded when I realized he was a national treasure.
Might be interesting to have an apprentice before I kick the bucket. You seem to have a good eye for things.
With that, my apprenticeship was accepted, and now we travel to various places together. Even though we lived under the same roof and I didn't go home often, the two of them had no idea what I was up to. Well, I never told them, but they never asked, and I didn't see the need to enlighten them either. My dad and Mike, pale-faced and apologizing deeply, listened as the Mentor said, "You'll hear good news soon," before he left the hotel. A few days later, at the shareholders meeting, the Mentor spoke about my dad and Mike. Mike's offer was rescinded due to the shareholders' concerns about him insulting a national treasure, even if unknowingly. Additionally, there was a strong sentiment against letting someone who had long belittled his own son hold a position of power. So, my dad was demoted to a staff member position. Under the strict guidance of a boss who was my dad's staff member, his once soaring pride seems to have been shattered. They're still family after all. While I don't feel the slightest bit sad about their predicament, I am glad our relatives working at the same bank were not affected.
William, fancy a break?
While I was adding wood to the kiln, Mom brought me some tea and snacks. Thanks to the Mentor's arrangement, she started helping out in the workshop and moved out of that house. She now lives in an apartment nearby with me. For the first time, my mother earned her own salary. She's been buying clothes and cosmetics, things she used to ask my father's permission for. It seems she's gained confidence. Seeing her so much happier than before, I smile naturally. All alone in that house, my mom persevered for the sake of her kids. She was worried about Mike until the very end. But, influenced too much by my dad, Mike no longer heeded her words. Even if my dad and Mike change in the future, it's doubtful that Mom and I will ever go back. Now, as for my life as Apata, I've finally started to shape the things I want to create. Thanks to my Mentor's connections, I've been getting opportunities to showcase my work at reviews and exhibitions. My name is gradually getting recognized in the industry, and there have been visitors who have taken a liking to my creations. It's rare to get direct feedback, so hearing about people's tastes and their perspectives on beauty is enlightening. The value of a piece is determined by its viewer, but a creator has their own ideals too. I want to create something even more beautiful, something that resonates deeply with people. That pursuit is the essence of my life as Apata,